hi everyone, and welcome again to the Excel workshop series, workshop number 3. My name is Eugenio, and I will be hosting this session on behalf of Hispanotech. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I am sure that with these workshops, you will be on your way to become an Excel super user. Also, I would like to thank Triac for providing us with the means to present this workshop. Now, I would like to start this presentation by talking a little bit of Hispanotech. Hispanotech is a not-for-profit organization whose mission is to help Hispanic professionals integrate and advance their careers in Canada. And how they do it? Through hosting skills development seminars, volunteering opportunities, networking events, mentoring programs, and so on. And please follow us on social media if you aren't a member yet. And if you think you can benefit from this program, please go ahead and become a member. I mean, it's free. Now, for the agenda, we are going to start with a 55 minutes workshop, and then we're going to have some 3-minute break. Then we're going to see workbook, worksheets, and then we're going to have that. We're going to see that for 1 hour, and we are going to have a 3-minute break. And after that, we're going to come back and see some if-then statement and loop. And that's going to be the last thing of this workshop. Now, without any other interruption or something, now please I will let Carlos to start his presentation. Carlos, it's all yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm pleased to be here, and I hope that this will be great for you to learn a little bit more about Visual Basic. Eugenio said that this was planned to make you a super user or power user. I think that we're a little bit far away, but we want you to have more knowledge, right? And of course, we're expecting you to have a lot of questions. About a little bit about myself, I am a global IT professional. I have been working in several countries already, and now I'm here in Toronto. I have 20 years of experience creating IT solutions for global teams, right? And of course, from there, I have that includes a lot of Excel, right? I have more than 20 years experience with Excel, and that's why I wanted to give a little bit back and explain you how to use this Visual Basic and macros. Thank you. So I guess.
Okay, Carlos, you can now share your screen. We can start. We're gonna start the course.
Excellent. So I will share my screen. There you go. So please tell me if you see my screen.
Yes, we can see that.
Excellent. Perfect. So I will move this away. We will need it, but not now. So again, Visual Basic, macros and Visual Basic. Of course, the important thing, right, to understand is that Visual Basic, macros and Visual Basic are embedded into every tool that you have in Microsoft, right? We're talking about the Excel, but in reality, you have Visual Basic in all the solutions, and you could do this programming or recording of macros in all of them. At this moment, we're working with Excel, right? So these macros, they're nothing more than recorded steps or scripts that you can do in Excel. And of course, the nice thing is that then afterwards, you can modify them or you can create your own directly using VBA, right? And of course, now we need to define what VBA is. VBA is nothing more than Visual Basic for applications. And of course, as the name says, it is based on the programming language called Visual Basic. This Visual Basic program or this Visual Basic programming language is based on objects. So it's an object-oriented program. And it also controls events, right? So everything that we will explain, and I will try to explain the best I can, is related to objects and how you can use the objects to do tasks inside these scripts that we call macros, right? And for that, I wanted to explain a little bit more the basic structure of these objects, right? These objects are divided into three main parts, right? So the first, and I have it here, properties, is values that you can store inside the object and you can modify or read to do something else, right? A perfect example is color, right? If you have a cell, you want to change the color, that is a property. So you will call it from black to white. That will be a property that is inside the object cell. Then you have methods. These methods are nothing more than a small script or tasks that you can execute inside that object. And the third one is events, is something that happens within the object that can trigger the execution of a script, right? For example, if you drag your mouse around this file, right, and you put it on top of teeth 2, and if we have a code that says when you select this cell, then please do these tasks, right? And that would be an event that you need to program. Okay, so I have here a screenshot that explains how you will see these differences between methods and properties, right? In this case, I put sheet1.range, and then I put a range, and if I put a dot, then this window will appear and it will show you the methods and properties on the object range, right? Don't worry, I will explain how this works, but I wanted just to show you the icons that you can relate to method, which is a green box running, and then property that is like a finger pointing to a box, okay? Then the other important thing I wanted to touch was, since Excel 2007, because you know that we have many versions of Excel. Since 2007, whenever you use macros, you need to save your workbook with a different type. It's not the normal XLSX, but XLXM. And it's very important that you note that, because if you're doing your coding or your recording, and then afterwards you save, and you save it as a normal workbook, then you will lose everything that you have done with Visual Basic, okay? And of course, you will be very sad. So let me show you a little bit. You go to File, you press Save, right? Save as, because I already saved it. So, and you will have these options, right? You have the normal option, is the always, by default, it will come the first option, XLSX. But if you want to save your macros as well, then you need to select the second one, which is Excel Macro Enabled Workbook, XLSM, okay? And that is the reason why this file that you received is called XLSM, because we will work with macros, right? So return, it's saved. So mine XLSM, so I don't need to change it. And then the last point for introduction is the object documentation that you can find for that Microsoft is sharing with you, right? As you know, as I said, Visual Basic is this scripting language that is inside all Office solutions. So Microsoft already offers this documentation that you can see when clicking on this URL, right? So if you click it, you will get this window, right? And this one will show all the objects that you can use in Excel, right? So for example, we have an overview. It explains a little bit about the language, the programming languages, and the differences between the versions. And then you'll have a list of all the objects. So we will talk about, for example, I will go to the most important one, and the one that we will explain today is range. And if we go here, there you go, range object. And if you want to know about the object, you will go here and it will explain, right, how range is used in Excel. And then you'll have the methods, and these are all the methods that range has, and then all the properties also here, right? We will use some today, but in reality, what I wanted to tell you is don't be afraid of trying. Don't be afraid of going to the documentation and trying all these different objects and methods and properties, right? I will try today to give you all the tools for you to be able to use this, okay? At least on the intermediate level. There's other levels, very high level, that you can program even applications inside Excel, right? That will be maybe in a later training, but at least on this today, you will be able to use some of this, okay? So that was the introduction. I will stop a little bit and I will ask you if you have any questions, or if I'm going too fast, please raise your hand or interrupt me, and then I will capture your question, okay? So if I don't hear any questions, I will go to the next topic.
Yeah, I don't see any questions either.
Nope, perfect. So I will go to, of course, as the name says, we will go to create a simple macro, right? And before doing that, we need to ask Excel to give us all the tools that we need to do this creation of macros, right? And for that, the first thing that we need to do is to open the developer tab. So usually when you install Excel in your machine, you will not have that in your toolbox, right? So if you see I have file, home, insert, page layout, formulas, data, review, view, and help, I don't have a tab called developer. So for you to have it, we will need to go to file, then you can go to options here down, and then you will have all these options, and one of them is customize ribbon. The ribbon, just for you to know, is all this part, right? So these tabs and then all these objects are called ribbon or ribbons, right? So we want to have one tab that is called developer that is here, and if you see it, is not checked. So for you to have it, you just need to click it and say okay, and then it comes here, developer, okay? And then it's here, you see it. Okay, let me pin my taskbar so you see it. Okay, so now you have it, right? These are all the tools that you would need in order to do the macros. Okay, the document says some different steps. You can also do it here and then customize ribbon. I wanted just to show you all the elements that you have in options, right? You can do it either way. If I go here to customize ribbon, it will appear the same window as I showed you, okay? So now that you have the ribbon, you have a lot of buttons, right? And I will go down because I'm already in developer. So let's try to do our first macro, okay? The command button, and I'm putting the command button here as the most important object because that will let us execute our macros the easiest, right? Imagine that you have a button anywhere, and then you need to put some tasks to that button. That is the thing that we will see now, okay? So to do that, you will need to go to insert, and then you have ActiveX controls, right? And the first one is called command button. That is the recommended one that you should use, right? So let's click it, and then you just drag it like this, and then a button appears, okay? As simple as that. It is here, the button. Now, the important thing to note, right, is that this button, at this moment, if you move your mouse on top of it, you will see as a square, sorry, a cross, right? That means that at this moment, this button doesn't have any functionality. Okay, you can also see it because you have these circles around it that says that you can modify the object how it sees, how it's seen, right? So I can make it bigger, or I can make it smaller, right? And is not pressed, okay? And this is because it is in design mode, okay? Design mode will let you change the appearance of all the objects that you use, like this, right?
Carlos?
Yes.
We have a question in the chat.
Okay.
It says, can you please show again which you select to get the command button?
Of course. I will delete this one. If you want to delete it, you just press delete, the key, and then it is deleted. Okay. You go to insert. You have two different types. We will use ActiveX controls. Okay. And the first option is command button. That one, you just need to click it once. And then you just, whenever you go to the Excel file or to the Excel window, you see that you have a cross. You click once on the left side of the left button of your mouse, and then you just keep it. You could keep it pressed until you like the size of your button, and then you leave it, and then it appears. I will do it again. Insert the button. You click once. Now you have a cross. Then you click again the left button. You leave it clicked, and then you just drag until the button, the size of the button you want, and then you release the button, and then the button appears. Okay?
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, there's another question, sorry.
Perfect.
It says, could you describe the difference between form versus ActiveX control?
Yes. The difference, and I will delete again. Oh, no, I will leave it there. The difference on this object is we would need to create a form which is more advanced to use these objects, okay? The ActiveX objects you can use anywhere at any time, right? So they're easier to start. They use more memory in your machine, right? So whenever you want to do a full form, it's easier to use this and they will be better on your machine. But at this moment, it's easier to explain with these objects, okay? So you can use these objects. If you have 2 or 3 or 4, it's not bad, but when you have hundreds, then your machine will become slow because it's using too much memory, okay? So these are only for 1 or 2 or maybe 10 objects. If you put more, then it's better to have a form, okay? That's why we're using ActiveX. So is that answered the question?
Yeah, it says thank you.
Perfect.
Very clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. So the button, we have the button. It's great. I don't like it that big, so I will move it. And of course I can move it. I click it, and then again I drag with the button clicked until I like the size, and then I leave it, and then it stays, right? And as I was explaining, at this moment we're in design mode. You see this button that is clicked, so I can move the button. If I click again on design mode, you will see that the circles disappear, and if I click this button, it's clicked, right? So you can see that it's clicked. It's clicking. Yes.
Yeah, sorry again. It just there's another question.
Perfect.
It says that a person has a Mac and can't find those 2 types of button, neither the design mode.
Oh, that's a really good question. On Mac. Yeah.
Probably different, right?
It's a different because you will not be able to use ActiveX. Yeah, I think that this course will only work with Windows machines. Oh, wait. No, wait. What I'm trying to say is the button will be difficult for you because I don't know which object you can use. Because you don't have, I don't think that in Mac you have ActiveX buttons. But maybe you can try with the other one. Hey. If not, I will show you a different way to execute your code.
This is Grecia. And I have a Mac too, so I can help you if you want. Yes. On another chat to this person.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, because I know how to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Who was talking now?
Like right now is Grecia.
Grecia, this is Andre Cardoso. Yes, if I can contact you afterwards, I'm going to send my email on the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but
Thank you so much.
Andre,
Sí, señor.
don't get nervous that much. I will show you how to execute your code even without the button. Okay. So at this moment, it's just
I'm
the button.
I'm following, but
okay,
now I'm still in that design mode. Let's see how far can I go. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So the button at this moment, as we have design mode not pressed, you just press it as a normal, but we still need to design something. So I will press it again, design, it is pressed still. And of course, now I can move it and I can change it and all that thing, right? So now let's go to the real deal, right? Let's start assigning a macro. Okay. So how can we do that? Let me drag my button down. So I'm clicking and I'm moving my button to here so we can all see what the screenshot says, right? It says we can right click on the button and then it appears all these tooltips, right? And one of the options that we have is view code. So if I click here, hello everybody, this is Visual Basic. So this is the window for you to edit anything that you want with Visual Basic. Okay, so I will explain a little bit about it, right? You have at this moment, and I will take this away because when you open it, you will see it a little bit like this. You'll have 3 different windows. You'll have the project, and the project will always show you the objects that you have open, right, that are Excel relevant. So at this moment, I have 2 Excel files open, Visual Basic Presentation, which is this file, and then I have another file that is called Macros Topics, which is my agenda for today, and I will show you. So this is the other one. So hello, this is the other one. I'm just showing you so you can see that I have 2 Excel files open at this moment. And then inside that object, that workbook object, which is this one, I have a lot of objects inside, which are, of course, these sheets, right? So these are other objects that you have inside. And then you have another point that is this workbook, which is you could create code that is not relevant only for one sheet, but for many sheets. You could do it in this part, which is this workbook, right? So this is where you see the objects. Now, the major objects. Then inside here, you will have all the properties of the object you are selecting now. So for example, I clicked on this workbook and automatically said that I'm doing the properties of this workbook. Okay, now let's recap a little bit. Remember that I told you that the objects have 3 different parts, right? We said that we have methods, then we have events, and then we have a third one, which was what? Can you tell me what is the third part of an object? Really quickly on the chat. So we have methods, we have events, and the third one was what?
Properties.
Like properties.
Exactly, properties, right? And we said that properties were values that you can use to modify your object, right? So in the case of, let's say, sheet 1, we're in sheet 1, create a simple macro. If I click sheet 1, then I go, it doesn't appear because I'm going to the bottom. But the bottom is the one that the smallest object on that sheet. But if you click here, you will have sheet 1 and then the command button, right? So if you go to command button, these are the properties that you have for that button. And if we go to the sheet, you have the properties of the sheet. Now, it's really important to note that the worksheet has 2 names. Have you seen that? The first row in properties says name with brackets. And then you have another one that is here that is called also name, but it doesn't have the brackets. Can somebody tell me why? Why do you think that we have two names? Any answer? I'll give you 2 more seconds, maybe 10 more seconds, and then I will tell you. If nobody has any idea why. Okay, let me explain why. If you see on the objects, you have 2 different things written here. You have in brackets, you have here saying create a simple macro, right? Which is also the name that you have on the tab, right? It says create a simple macro. So this one within brackets is the visible name of the sheet, okay? The one that you can change every single time. But imagine that you're doing your macro and then somebody, because likes to name the sheets differently, changes the name. And instead of create a simple macro, it names this sheet simple macro. If you have something that relates to that sheet, then your code will not work anymore. So Visual Basic creates another name that is a hidden name. And that hidden name you can only modify within this window. So internally, create a simple macro, this sheet, is called sheet 1. And whenever you code, it's better that you use the hidden name, so the one that is only for coding, instead of the name that appears on the sheet. Because then if your users want to change the name of the sheet, or you want to change the name of the sheet, then it doesn't affect your code. Okay? So again, in brackets is the hidden name, no brackets is the name of the sheet outside for everybody to see. Okay? So this is the property sheet. You can see that we have other things. The other important characteristic, another important property that you have in sheets is the visibility. So you can hide and unhide sheets. So this one is not hidden, it's visible, but you can hide it. And then there's another option, a third option that you don't see in normal Excel functionality. And that is sheet very hidden. And if you really very hide a sheet, you will only see it with programming. The user will not be able to unhide sheets that are very hidden, okay, or very hidden. So this is an option that you can have if you have information that you don't want anybody to see, but use, then this is the way. You can hide a sheet, right? And you can only do it with this window or by programming. And then the third part of this Visual Basic window is the programming window, right? Is where the code is. So we have 2 text boxes, and here you will have general and then command button and worksheet. So if I go to general, nothing happens. If I go to command button, it goes inside this routine, right? And that is the name of this subroutine. That's why it's called sub, right? So you will have, you will have 2 different types. You'll have subroutines and then you'll have functions. So this subroutine is called command button click. And if you see the second here, the second part is all the events that can be triggered by this object. So at this moment, we're doing command button 1, which is the button that we added. And here are all the objects, all the events that you can modify with this object. At this moment, we want click, right? So we leave it in click. And then that's it. Let me show you if I put something else. If I do double click. If I put double click, then another subroutine will appear. And it will say, okay, if you double click, this is the program that you will run. Okay? You'll say, oh, no, you know what? I don't want to double click. You just select and delete. And see, it appears again. I will delete it again. Don't worry about it. It's just creating the template for you to add your code. Okay, so let's do the easiest thing that you can do with the code, right? So the button is in, I want to write hello world in the cell M87. Okay, so this cell. So if I open my code, I will say, very simple, right? So I will say range of open brackets. It will automatically tell you some help, but I know that my range is M87, right? I close the quotes, I close the brackets, and then I put point, and then as I said, every object that you have, when you put a point after the object, it will let you know methods and properties. And the way that you differentiate methods from properties is the icon, right? So the thing I want to change is the value of the range. So let's search for value. And you have all these, blah, 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 all this, and then all of a sudden you have value, all the way down, value. So you click value. So now program here, it means I will change the value of the range M87, okay? And to change the value, you just make equals, and then I will say hello world, okay? That's it. As is a string, strings always remember that you need the quotes to open and close. That's why I'm using the quotes. Visual Basic, when you program, the end of the line is a normal line. So if I go enter, it means that this program is now 2 lines of code, okay? So I have this code, range 87, the value, I want it to be hello world. Let's test it, right? It's already programmed. Let's test it. If you press this button now, what will happen? So chat, what will happen if I press the button now? What do you think it will happen? Any answers?
It will display.
No. Why it will not display?
I'm seeing a lot of nothing or hello world.
Nope.
And other
Nope.
thing, some people are saying that it's quite small, like the detail when.
Okay.
Yes,
I can
you
make it bigger. I
increase
can make
again?
it bigger.
Thank
can
you,
make
thank
it
you,
bigger.
Carlos. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I will make it bigger right now. So let me try to make it bigger on the code. Maybe the code will be difficult to make it bigger because I don't have zoom. No, I don't have zoom in this one. So this one, I'm sorry, guys. In the case of the Visual Basic code, it will be difficult to make it bigger, but I can make it bigger here. So I'll make it zoom of like this. Okay. So you said that it will present hello world, and I will tell you no, and I'm missing one step. And I will explain it again. I put the button, and then I need to turn off the design mode. Okay, if you have the design mode, if I click it, nothing, it comes, see? I will do it again. If I click here, nothing happens, and if I double click, the Visual Basic code comes. And this happens because I am in design mode. So I am doing the layout of the program. I am not executing the program. So if you want to execute it, you need to turn off the design mode. So I will do it. I will turn the design mode off. And see, now I can click on the cells. If I go to design mode, I can click on the cells, but I cannot click on the button. Okay? Design mode off. I click, and there you go. It says hello world. Of course, my cell is small. So if I join these 3 cells together, then it says hello world. There you go. So press it again. I will delete it. Delete, press hello world. So congratulations. That is the first piece of code that you have written. Okay, and it's as easy as that. So the Visual Basic Editor I explained. Now let's go, well, before that, do you have any questions? before we move to record a macro? No questions?
Carlos,
Yes.
could you repeat the last step, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I will repeat it. I will repeat most of the things. Let's do that. So when I added the button, remember, if you press insert and put ActiveX controls and you put your button here, automatically all the sheet goes into design mode. Okay, then I went to the code, to the Visual Basic here, right? I added the code inside the event command button click. Okay, now the code is written, but the sheet is still in design mode. Okay, so for you to test your button, you need to press design mode off. At this moment it's on. How do you know? Because it's a little bit more gray if you see it. So I'll press it off. Then the buttons are all equal. If I press it, if I press it once, it stays pressed. It's a little bit more, it's a darker gray than the rest. Okay. Design mode doesn't let you execute the code from the button. If you turn off the design mode, it's the normal mode. And then I will press it as many times as I want. So I can delete. I will delete again. I will write something else. This is a test. And of course, as now I'm saying that the value of this cell will change, it will change. Any other questions? So design mode, very, very important. When you're putting commands, when you're putting objects inside the sheet, remember to turn the design mode off. If not, any object will work. Okay? So, any other questions?
Yes, Carlos, we have another question.
Yep.
What happens if I click 3 times? How many times it gonna print hello world?
3 times. Yep. So let's do it, right? Let's test it. I'm in design mode off, right? And then I press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You will start every single time that you click, it will run this. How do I know? Let's test this. This is a little bit, it is a perfect way for you to test your program, okay? If you want to stop your program in a line, you click on the right, on this gray area of the program, you click it once. And see, it appears this red button. Okay, it means that this line will be stopped every single time it runs. Okay, so now it's stopped. I press it and it comes here, see? And it's a yellow thing. So to run it further, you can go here and say continue. So F5 will continue. And that's it, it ran. Okay, so if you press 3 times, you'll press once, it will come here. You go F5, and then it runs. Then I press again, and then it will stop here, and it will run. And then if you press it as many times, it will run as many times, right? Now, as I stopped it, every single time it will come here. You don't want that. So to turn this stop off, you click again here, and then it goes, disappears. And then you go play, and then it works, okay? Again, if you want to stop in a line, you press here, stops. And if you want to continue afterwards, you press it again, and then it goes, okay? This is a little bit more advanced. It was not part of this, but I wanted you to see that it really is doing it every single time that you do it, right? Any other question? If not, let's go to the thing I think you will use the most, okay? This is the Visual Basic Editor. You can tell me, and I have heard it many, many times, people saying, hey, I am not a programmer. I don't want to learn how to program at any single time, but I'm really interested in doing macros, right? And then, of course, Microsoft understood that and said, oh, not everybody is a programmer, right? So why don't we help them? And that's the reason why they created this functionality that I will show you. So I will close. I have my Visual Basic code here. I will close it, right? and then I will do a table. I will put hello to everybody today, right? So a few cells. I will make it smaller. So no, maybe I will join these cells so you can see everything. So I will pick. Okay. So now there are 2 cells. They're there, happy, living their lives. And now, right, I want to sort that table by A to Z. Okay. And I don't want to do it every single time. I know people will write there, and I always want to do this without selecting and sorting, right? If you want to do that, the way that you can do is to record a macro, okay? So this functionality is here in the developer tab. Here, this is the button. You have Visual Basic, then you have macros, and then you have record a macro. So if you press a button, it will tell you what is the name of the macro you want. And I will say, sort my table. Okay. And this will be stored in this workbook, because here is where the information is, right? You can store it somewhere else, but I would recommend you always to put it in this workbook, because it's that where you are recording this, right? And then I will put this is the description of this, right? So this is my new sorting macro. There you go, beautiful, right? I will say okay. And after saying okay, Excel is recording every single step that you're doing. Okay, so I will go to A33. Then I will put a dot. Then I will go here and I will do the tasks that I wanted. So I will sort. I'll go to home, and then I will sort A to Z, and then everybody hello to today, which doesn't make any sense, but I'm sorting. Then I will change the color. Why not? Let's change of the cells to yellow. There you go. And as I said, every single step that you're doing is being recorded. Okay, so if you have done all the tasks that you wanted, please do not forget to turn the recording off. Okay, so if you see the icon is different and now it says stop recording. Okay, so I did everything that I wanted. I will stop. Right? See, now it came back to record macro. Okay, then you will say, okay, did it really worked? Right? Let's see. So this one was hello, right? It was hello, everybody. No, hello to everybody today, right? To everybody today, right? It was like this. And it was not in yellow, it was in white, right? So I will turn it off. I will say white. It was like this, right? And we didn't have a dot here. There you go. Okay, so let's see what happened. You will tell me, okay, I recorded it. And now what? Right? So let's try to put our code, right? We learned that we can add buttons. So I will add a button here, right? Let's put a button here. And we said that to add code into our button, we had to right click and say view code, right? So now we have 2 buttons. We have the button on top, and then we have this button number 2, which is here, right? Button 2. Let's change the name. How do you change the name of the button? And remember that we have 2. In the case of sheets, we had 2 names, but in the case of the buttons, we have a name, which is the internal name, and then you have something else that is what? If you see here, it's called caption. And caption is the text that you present here, okay? So if I change the button and say sorting in the caption part, so I change caption, I said caption sorting, and if you see here the button, it now calls sorting. but the internal name of the button is still command button 2. Okay, so this code will work here. Okay, now macro, where is the macro? The macro will appear if you go to the project. You'll have now another folder that is called modules, and inside of the modules you have a module called module 1. So if you double click on the module 1, you'll have all these. Okay, and if you see, this is code that was generated by Excel on all the steps that I wanted. Okay, so it says that it went to this means I went to range A1333 to S1333, which is this range. Okay, then the code says I will select it. Then I will change the formula or the value to say, congratulations, you have just created a macro in Excel. Then it will go to this range, L42 to M45. So L to M here, 245. So it will select this, okay? And it will sort. This is all this. This will do the sorting. Believe me, it does.
Sorry,
So,
Carlos.
Yep.
We are on time for this exercise. Thank you.
Perfect. I will just finish with this. So this macro, as you remember, the name of the macro was sort my table. So to execute it, I will need to select this to be executed in my code, right? Sort my table. So to do that, I will do in the sorting button, I will go to view code, and what should I put here? The only thing that you need to do is sort my, what was the name? Sort my what? I forgot. So I will go back. I will copy this. So Control C on this, sort my table. I will return to the code. So I can go to sheet 1, right? And here I am pasting this. That's it. The name of the code here. So if you want to do that, you press, of course, if I press this, doesn't work because I'm in design mode. So I need to turn off the design mode. And then if I press it, it's doing everything. It did the point. So it's here. Then it sorted everything. Everybody hello to today. And it painted everything yellow. So that is how you create macros, right? Any questions about creating macros? So just to recap, button, record macro, you put the name, you do whatever you need to do, then you press the stop recording, and then to run it, you create an object, and then it will run. Or I will show you how to do a different way to run the code, okay? But that it will be in the next chapter. So any other question about Visual Basic Editor? Or the macro? At the end, if you see this presentation shows you almost everything. So I went a little bit out of this presentation because I wanted you to see it better than just me explaining short screenshots, right? Any other question? Then we move. We move? Do you want to move? Let's move. So the next topic is message box and input box. Okay? So in Excel, imagine that you're running a code, you're running a macro, but you want to know when it was finished, right? Because if you saw it runs and then you don't know if it ran, right? And that is the simple reason why you have this message box. So this message box will appear whenever you call it, and it will have a window with the text that you select, and then it will say whatever it says, whatever you want to program, and then you will press OK. That's it. That's the functionality. So let's test it, right? Let's go to our code. Let's create a button again. No, you know what? Let's not create a button. Let's do it directly, and I will show you how to run your query, your code in a different way. So we will go back to Visual Basic, right? We are here in Visual Basic. You see it? Then there is a window that you can always open. Okay? And that open, if you go to view, you will have this that it says immediate window. So you can open that window and it will appear on this lower part of the window for Visual Basic. Okay? Immediate, this one. And it's always blank because it's how to test your code. So if I want to test my code, so this one, sort my table, you can run it by just clicking here and then running it. And then see, I went to the other sheet and it ran. In fact, it ran in the wrong sheet. Perfect. This is something that we need to speak later. Okay, if you see, it ran on the wrong Excel sheet, right? It ran here instead of running here. So everything that it was doing, it did, but it did it in a different window. Why? Because the code didn't have the worksheet object. It was only range. So when you execute the code, it will execute it in the active window. I will explain a little bit later. So, but you saw that it happened, right? So in the case of message box, I will return to this. So don't worry, nothing was harmed. I will return to the code. So this immediate window works to run code. That's it. We will run code. So in the example, it says, let's create a simple message. Okay. And this says, this is fun. So I will copy this, what it says here. I will copy it and I will test it, right? I want to know what happens. So you go to immediate, right? I need to go out of the cell first. So here I am in the immediate window and I will paste exactly the code, right? And I will give enter. And this is the window, right? So immediate works to execute automatically one line of code, whatever line of code you want. So this was the test, right? And if you see a window appears, so message box, what it does is it shows you a window with the text that you put in brackets or in quotes, sorry. And then if you press OK, nothing happens. And of course, I was running it from here, so it worked here. If I create, let's do it a different way, right? Let's change the code of button 2, right? Instead of calling sort by table. So I don't want to do sort my table anymore. If you put apostrophe, if you put apostrophe before any line of code, it will go to green, and that means that is commented. So instead of being a line of code, it's just a comment. Okay, so it will not execute it. So I don't want to sort my table anymore, and I will do exactly this. This is fun, right? Now, of course, the button is not in this sheet. It's in the other sheet, in the simple. So we will need to go here in our button that is called sorting, right? Where is our sorting? Sorting button up here. Where was it? I don't find it where it is. There you go, sorting, right? I changed the code. Now it's not running our macro, it's running a message box, right? If I press it, it changed, right? So it's the same button, it's still named as sorting, but now it's running the message box. Why? Because we commented this line and then we put this one other code here, okay? How to revert this stupid thing I'm doing? Of course, you can comment this line. So with the apostrophe, it goes green. And then this goes, you delete the apostrophe and see, it goes automatically to black. And that means that it's not a comment. And if I go back and I press this button, then it will do exactly what I wanted. So let's delete this one. And then I press and see, it comes back, because the code says that the value would be this. So that was message box. So message box, again, to recap message box, it only shows a window, right, where we can see text. And that text can be anything. It can be, well, this thing, right? I can do what do you want to say? What do I want to say now? right? And then if I press it, what do I want to say now? Or I can copy a really long text, right? And then it will come as a window, and then you will say, okay. Functionality. If you're running this sort my table, then we can do this. We can have the two things together, and then we can say, my sorting is done. Right? We ran the macro, and then it will tell us that the sorting was done. So we go back, and we press, and then what happens? It tells you, my sorting is done. So this is the way that you could use the sorting, right? Sorry, the message box to tell you when your macros have been done or finished.
Carlos, 5
Yes.
more minutes for this topic, please.
Sorry?
5 more minutes for this.
Okay, yeah, I will finish.
Perfect, thank you.
So sorting is done. It will not let you do anything until you press OK. So be careful, right? You have a window here. So until you press OK, OK, right? Any question on message box? Very simple, just to put text into a window and to let you know whatever you want to do, right? Then you have another way, right? And then you say, okay, message box is nice, but I want to ask the user for information. And that is the functionality of input box, right? So instead of just telling you something, it will ask you for something, right? And then, of course, we're starting to get into programming, because for that to happen, you need to store it somewhere, right? And then here it explains how to create a variable, which is a piece of memory where you can save information, right? In this case, it's telling you that you, here, in this line 42, it will tell you, let's declare a variable. And the way to declare a variable is by using the name dim. This dim comes from the word dimension. So give me some space in the memory to put this variable. And this variable is called my value, and it's a variant, right? Why would you need that? Well, because you need to store somewhere the input that the user is giving you. So let's test that. Okay, let's go here. So I have a message box. I will say it here. I will put in this button that we're creating, that is a beautiful button. I will say, why don't I select, I say X equals, so a variable X equals to message box, to an input box. So you start writing input box, and you open a bracket, and then it will tell you all these things. So the prompt is the information that you want these to present. So give me a number. So it's the text that appears here, right? Inside the box. Give me a number, and then I will say this, okay? Then you say comma. The title is what appears on the top. So I'll say, I need a number. Right? That's it. And then the rest, in fact, the rest is all in, if you see, is in square brackets here. All these. What it's telling you is that this function will let you go without writing anything but the prompt. If you see, the prompt is the only one that is not in brackets or in squared. So this is compulsory and the rest is optional. Okay. So I will do only those two, right? I forgot to close my brackets. So I will close the parentheses, right? And then let's run this, okay? So I will stop here, okay? Because I want to see the value of X. So I will stop here, and then I will run the button, right? The button is on the different sheet. This is the button that we're using. I will press it, and then it comes here. I will do F8, which is just one step. And then see, it gives me a window that says, I need a number, and says, give me a number. So let's give this a number, 1, 2, 3. And I will say, okay. Okay. So the sorting is done. But why don't we present X? So let's go back to the sheet, right? So I will say the sorting is done. In the message box, remember that we were having a message show? I will not stop it. I will show it like this. And then I will add the value of X. That's it. Okay, so now my message box will say my sorting is done, and then it will present the value of X. Let's test it. Let's go here. I'll press it. Give me a number. What number? Let's put a big number. And then say, okay. See, my sorting is done, and then it puts the number. Right? So this is the way of the input box. If you would need to know, for example, the question that you had before, how many times this is running, so you could make a loop, which we'll explain later, and this time, this code will run the times that you were asking. Or, for example, if you want to put you don't know what name to put something, you can use an input box. You can store that name and then use it later in a code, like I do it, like I did it here. So, any question on this input box? Am I going too fast? Or you're sleeping, maybe. Maybe I should make a joke so you don't go to sleep. So again, the question, I will ask a question, right? You told me in your material, you told me that I needed to declare a sheet with dim. Why didn't I need it here to present X? And this is an important for Visual Basic, okay? Visual Basic is intelligent enough that if you want to create a variable and you don't know how to declare it, you just name it, right? In this case, I just put X and automatically it knew that it was a variable, right? And this variable will have the type variant, which means any value you want, okay? So if you don't declare the variable, it will let you put inside of it anything you want. And you don't need to declare it. It will declare it automatically whenever it sees something like this, okay? That's why I didn't put dim in. If I put dim, the negative part of doing this is that you're using more memory. Variant, the type variant uses a lot of memory, right? So if you're doing a big code, this will be bad. But for you guys that you're just starting, you can declare the variables like this and it will work. Any question? Message box? Clear?
Oh.
Input box clear? Perfect. This is the main objects as I told you before, right? These are the objects that we'll use the most, right? Is where you put the information in, where you save the information that you have in. So it's very important to understand how it works in the context of Visual Basic, right? So in this object-oriented programming, right, you can have bigger objects containing other objects. Perfect example is a workbook has many sheets, right? So one object, workbook, has many objects of the class worksheet, right? And the same way would go for example, one worksheet will have many cells, right? And inside the cell, maybe you have other smaller objects that are contained within the object cell, right? So that is what we call a hierarchy of objects. You will have containers that have more objects inside. And of course, if you want to modify that object, right, the object inside, then you will need to give the complete route to it. And that route to it is exactly, remember the issue that I had with the code when I call it from a different sheet, right? Remember that we had this that happened here. Why did it happen? And it happened because we didn't follow this rule. We need to say to the code exactly which range we're we're going to use, right? When you press range without all the hierarchy, it will go to the range of the sheet that you have open or you have selected. So for example, at this moment, I'm in the worksheet that is called worksheet and workbook object. This is the active worksheet, right? And the rest are not active. You only can have one active sheet, which is the one that you see, right? If I move to introduction, then the active sheet automatically is the introduction sheet, right? So if you have code and you don't put this object hierarchy, then it will, if you put an object range without the object hierarchy, it will automatically select the active sheet, right? So that is why it's very important to have that. Now, how do you go from object to object? And you have seen it already in the code, right? Let's open the code. When you put a dot, automatically you go to the objects that you have inside, right? The components we said. And we said that we have properties, and then we have methods, and then we have what else? Can somebody tell me inside the chat? So we said that we have in the object events, exactly. Thank you very much. Events. So we have methods, we have properties, and then we have events. Now, a property, and I said is something that is stored inside, right? That you can use later. So one of the properties can be another object, right? Let's test that now, right? So we go to any code. Let's create another button in this so we don't start messing around. So I will create a button here. Again, insert, ActiveX controls. I'll select the button, left click. I'm leaving it clicked, and then I'm dragging, and then I leave it, and then the button appears, right? And why? Question, guys. Why is command button 1? Remember that the first button that we put, it was command button 1 as well. So why can this button be also command button 1? Exactly, Luis. Luis is right. We are using a different worksheet. Means that the buttons that you add are linked to the worksheet. So you can have command button 1 everywhere in the code, right? And we remember that we were going here, and I said within the sheet you have the common the buttons, right? So this code is inside the worksheet 1. So create a simple macro. But if we want to go to worksheet and workbook object, then here is the next command button 1, right? So this command button is the command button 1 that we created in worksheet 3, or the worksheet that is called worksheet and workbook object. Okay, so this is already you seeing the hierarchy, right? Every single worksheet can have as many objects, right? Buttons, and each and every sheet will have the same. They can have the same name because the hierarchy will tell you which button you're talking about. Okay. So let's go back. Okay, we're creating this object. It's this one. I will go right click and I will go to the code, and of course it's exactly where I was. Okay. Now let's try to do that, right? Let's see the attributes. So the highest level in Visual Basic for applications in Excel is Excel itself, right? And that object is called application. That's it, application. So if I put dot, it will tell you all these elements, right? You have activate Microsoft app, which is a method that you can call. You can have active cell, active chart, and blah, blah, blah. You have many, many, many. You have, again, these are properties, and the green ones are methods, right? And the one that I want, the object that you have. So you imagine that you have the application. What comes after application? Imagine you open Excel, and then what comes afterwards? Anyone in the chat? Go. So after application, workbook, thank you, Maria, is exactly right. The next object that you have is workbook. You can have Excel open and many, many workbooks open for the same application, right? So let's look for that. Work, and there you go. See, you have a property that is called workbooks. Now, can somebody tell me how I can select one of those workbooks? So we have workbooks. Now, of course, we have many workbooks. How would I be able to select this workbook? I have two open workbooks, right? I have macros topics, and then I have VBA presentation. So how do I select the correct with the name? Yeah, how do you put the name? But as easy as everything, right? It goes this, and then you can put the name. The name of this workbook will be VBA presentation, right? Presentation. There you go. So that will be the name, right? So that is my workbook now. Now, after, exactly, with the name between brackets. Now, we have workbooks. What comes after workbooks? So you have one workbook. At this moment, we're in this workbook. What else do we have after workbooks? Sheets, exactly, sheets. So how do we know? Imagine that you don't remember, right? It's like, oh man, what comes after workbooks? If you put button, then it will tell you the properties and methods of that object, right? So we will go around and we will go down and we will go down, and we have many, 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 right? And we said, what is that, right? What did I say? And then you go down, 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 down. And oops, wait. Didn't you say there was worksheets? Right? Why it's written sheets, right? Let's go down now. I want worksheets. So I have worksheets. And I have sheets. Question to the chat. Which one is correct? So we have sheets, and then we have worksheets. Maria says sheets. Carlos says worksheets. What do you think? But Vanessa says worksheets. Okay, perfect, guys. It's great. Don't worry. Both will work. Both will work. So you can use worksheets or you can use sheets, right? Of course, if you are like me, right, and you like to write as little as possible, you will use sheets because it's shorter, right? But both will work the same way, okay? So I will use sheets, and then I will open a bracket, right? And then it always tells you the default is index, okay? So what is the difference between name and index? If you have the numbered way, right? If you know that your sheet is number 2, instead of putting all the name, you can say 2 instead of putting the whole name, right? If you have a long name, it's better to use the index. Now, let me tell you, I will delete this thing because there's another way. So the other way that you could do, right, is to put dot, and you said, okay, wait, you told me that there is a name, a hidden name that is always working, right? And that name I can use in the code. Why I cannot use it here, right? I told you that sheet, this hidden name should be a name that should work, right? And I will tell you why it doesn't work. It doesn't work in this code, and you don't see it in this list, because at this moment, at the moment you're writing, the workbook is not set to 1, right? It will only know which workbook you're talking about until it goes and checks for this, right? So that's why the other name doesn't work. Let me explain, right? I will do another thing, okay? I will do another line. And I will say there's another object that always appears, right? That is this workbook. Remember that I told you that there's something called this workbook, okay? This workbook, automatically this object always appears, and you don't need to go through application all the way to the workbook, right? The workbook will always be open because of course you have it open, right? And you can always use it. So this workbook, okay, if you write this workbook, okay, it will automatically know that you're talking about this workbook that you have open, okay? So if you go dot, it will be exactly the same as the thing that you have open on top, right? Now, the advantage of doing this workbook is that you can go to sheet 1. So you can do like this, right? And it will know that it's sheet 1. If I write it correctly, right? The other way that you can do it is exactly how I did it, right? As I'm in this workbook, right, the sheets that I have in these sheets are always visible. So you can, instead of going to all the way, doing what I was doing, so the same thing that I'm doing here, for example, value, no, I will put name, right? Let's do this, name. Okay, I will change the name. Don't do this at home because it will really change the name of the code. So the name of the sheet, I will call it test 1. Okay. Just not to lose it, I will put x equals sheet1.name. Okay. So I will store the name in x. Then I will do this, and then I will leave it like this. I will leave it like that. Don't worry, we can do it back. So just to test, right? I want to do this, and then I will go to sheets. We said that sheets was the object, right? Then we can go bracket opened, sorry, parenthesis open, and then I can say with quotes, I can say the sheet that I have, sheet 1. So if you go here, sheet 1 is called create a simple macro, right? So you can go here, create a simple macro, create a simple. Now, the problem with this is that you really need to write it the correct way. If not, it will not find it, okay? So I will do create a simple macro with upper cases and lower cases, exactly the same way as you have written it. And then I close it. And then I say name equals test 1. Now, question to the chat. Why do I have the third line is in red? Do you know? Can somebody tell me why the third line is in red? Any idea why? Is not correct. Thank you, Grecia. Yes, it is not correct. Now, why? Somebody older than Grecia. Space? Nope. It's not a space. Exactly. We're missing the quotes. Name and this property is waiting for a string. Okay? So this that I wrote here is not a string. In code and also in Excel, the only way that you can do text is by putting in quotes. So quote. That's it.
Sorry, Carlos.
Yes.
5 more minutes for this exercise.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So let's see what happens. Now let me copy this because create that. Now I understand, Vanessa, what you were talking about. It will not work because I'm writing it wrong. There you go. Create a simple macro. There you go. Okay. I will copy this because then I will need to name back my sheet. So how do we run this? We go back to the button. We have it in button. I press it, but of course, remember, we need to go back to design mode, right? So let's go back to design mode. Let's press it. See what happened? My create a macro just died, and now it's called test1, right? So I will rename it because I don't want to lose that name. Let's go back to the code, right? So there you go. So all these big thing. Wait. You know what? Let me comment this, okay? Because I'm doing the same in the 2 lines. So I'm testing only the first line, okay? First line. I will try it again, and then it changed the name, right? There you go, test1. I will put back the name. I'm copying and pasting the name, right? So I'll go back to the code. I go back here. This one worked. We tested it. It worked. So I'll go to this one, right? I will just sheet name and then test1. I will press this and why giving? No, sorry. I'm wrong. I'm in the wrong sheet. There you go. This button, I will press it, and then you see test1. So the 2 lines are exactly the same, but the hierarchy works. You don't need the hierarchy in this case because the object is name. This name is never the same. You cannot have the same hidden name at any place in this worksheet, in this workbook, right? So this is exactly the same thing as doing this workbook, okay? In reality, what you're writing is this workbook sheet1 name. Now, of course, you can say that when you're talking of sheet 1, this is the same as not writing this, okay? But when you're doing it this way, what you can do, right? Application, you can also do it because you know that the application is open. So you can take an application away and it will work like workbooks, presentation, or sheets, right? That will work the same. You saw it, it works exactly the same both ways. But the important thing in this, right, is that the hierarchy always connects, okay? So properties and methods we explain, there you go. So this subject is closed unless you have questions about it. So object hierarchy, every single time that you put a dot, it goes to the components of that object, okay? And the good way to program when you're doing it is to put as more detail as possible, right? Because if not, you'll have exactly the same problem that I had when I did this code, right? Something that ran incorrectly. This should have not happened. I wanted to do it in this sheet, but as I didn't do it in our code, if we see our code, right? Let's go to the code, to this code. This code doesn't have the worksheet. It only calls ranges. So if you don't put any range, what you are really doing is you calling this active sheet, which is the sheet that you have already visible at this moment. Okay? So this and this, exactly the same thing. Okay? So if you want this code to run correctly, you will need to put worksheet, right? So worksheets of what? And then you will need to put the name of the worksheet, which is create a simple macro, right? Create a, whoops, this will not work. Why? Because I'm missing the quotes. Create, I have it in, there you go, create a simple macro. So closing the quotes, closing the parentheses, and then dot. This will work now. Because now this code will always run in that sheet. When you do select, it will run in that precise location. I will explain what select does, right? But this will work now. This will always run in this sheet, okay? Any other questions about worksheets and workbooks? If not, let's continue with the range object, which is the most important object all around because it's so versatile. Okay? No questions? Chat, tell me. Okay, then we go to range. Now, range. Can somebody tell me the object hierarchy for range? Go to the chat and put me the object hierarchy of range. How would you put it? So we saw that it was the first subject of worksheet. So we said that the hierarchy will tell you the complete tree of objects of to range, right? So what would that be? Remember that we called application? Then what comes after application? Chat? Come on, guys, write with me. Nope. Application? Yeah, exactly, Carlos. Maria, Julio, perfect. Workbooks, yes. Then what? Inside one of those workbooks, what do you have? Sheets, perfect. Sheets, right? Now, inside one sheet, what do you have? Cells, yes. Yes, cells, true. But there is an object that could also be between cells and sheets. And that is the object range. So range is a, right, collection of cells as well, right? So you can, and you can really, in Visual Basic, you can link directly from sheet to cell. You can do that. But you can also go through range. And that's why this object is the most versatile object that you have in Visual Basic. You will use it everywhere, right? So let's start doing this, okay? Let's start coding. Let's go to the code, right? So range. Do you remember what I told you here? Why I added worksheets before range? And why I added it is if I run this code, it will always act from the active sheet, right? Because every single sheet has the same range, right? Every single sheet has the same range. Every single sheet, you can go to A133 to S133. You can always do it. And that's why it's very important that you put that if you want to code, okay? So that's why I made this change in this one, because that will work, right? And you see, even Excel did it. See, active workbook, worksheets, create a simple macro. So we can do exactly the same. I can just copy it. So here and put it here, and that's it, right? This will work now perfectly fine. So let's go to range. Let's play with range, okay? Let's go to the sheet, because this is not in the sheet. Let's go to my range object. There you go. The code is here. So let's put a button, because we love to put buttons. Let's put insert, ActiveX. Then I click, drag, leave the click, and then I have the button, right? Let's do that, okay? And let's put values somewhere, right? So this button, right click, I will see the code. I have the code already, and then let's say range of, and see, it tells you cell 1, cell 2, right? You can put it with that, or you can put with text, the normal way that you do the cells, right? So see, it will be F10 to maybe G11. Let's do that. Maybe not. Maybe it goes J10. There you go. Okay, that will be my range. Okay, dot value equals 10. Okay, let's do that. Very simple. How do we test it? We go back, and then we turn off the design mode, and then I press it, right? And then whoop, from F10 to J10, tens, right? How can I do it the same way in code now that you know that you can use cells, right? You can go and say cells, and then you can say the row index would be 10, right? And then the column index will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 equals 10, right? And then you can go also cells 10, 10,7. Let's change the value. Let's put 11, right? And then I'll put 11 just to test. What am I missing? Value. There you go. So the cell value of 10.6 and 10.7 value will be 11, right? Let's stop it here and let's see what happens, right? So if I press this button, it's already not design mode. I press it, it goes to 10, and then I have it here stopped at 11, right? Sorry, at this. I go F8 to run one only, and then see, it changed this one. And then if I do F8, just one step, then it goes to 11. So as you can see, range and cells works exactly the same. So you can use it, but of course, the number of code that you need to write if you use cells is more than just range, right? Now, question to you guys. What would be the problem of this code? Carlos, I will answer your question just right now, okay? So, no. The code worked. So there's no problem. It will run. But in reality, the problem that you have in this code is that it will do exactly the same in every sheet. If I run this one, no, and that's the problem for him. Even if the code is it is from this sheet, if I call it outside and I change it, if I change the sheet, we'll do it in any sheet, in the active sheet. Yes, exactly, Gracia. We're not saying which sheet, right? At this moment, because I'm pressing the button, I know that I'm in this sheet. But if I run the code here, right? I'll run the code here. I will do this, okay? I'll put this, okay? But then I will move from sheet. I will do it in, let's do to example 3. I'll go to example 3, and I will run this code, okay? I'm in example 3. See, I'm in example 3. I will run this code, so enter. And what happens? See what happened? It goes to here. What if it happens if a user adds a comment between F and J? Exactly, what happens? J becomes this one, right? So if I run the code again, I will delete this, right? Imagine that nothing happened. You have this information like this, right? Let's do it like this. And then you say that between F and J, I add a column. I add a column, right? We will do it in 10, and I will run this. After you added the column, I'll run this, and what happens? It doesn't matter, right? It goes to F to J. Now imagine that you do it after the adding, it will happen this. If you do it before, sorry, I did it before. If you do it after, it will happen this, right? It's you added a column, and every information that you have around it will move, but the code will do exactly what you told the code to do. F10 to J10, when you add a column, that column becomes another column, right? So what was I now becomes J, and that's it. So the code will never know if you added columns or no. It will follow exactly what you said. And that's why it's very important that you know what the code is doing, right? Can we use reference names in the columns to avoid it? Well, in reality, you will never avoid that. No. Because at this moment, even if you reference it, you have the name of it, right? Unless you have names. That could work, right? Instead of using F10, you can say X equals to F10, right? Or you can have something here that says this cell is F10, right? So we can put F10 here. And then cell F6 tells me the first. And then you have here, you have K10, right? That would work, because then you can say this, let's do this crazy thing, okay? This is what you're asking, Stella. You can do here, you can say, okay, cells. So the cell, the cells, the row is 5, the column is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 point value, right? Value, right? That is the first cell. Oh, sorry, no, I missed this. There you go. So dot value, okay, comma, and then the other cell would be no, you know what? Wait, this is an ampersand. So I want to do this. Coop, I will put 2 points and do it like this, and then I will do another ampersand. What the ampersand does is concatenate a string. Okay, so I do cells value, and then I will concatenate that to the other value of the other cell, right? So cells is not 6, but maybe 7. Let's put it easier. Let's copy this, and I will put it here, right? So I will put here 6, 6, okay? Right? What do you think that this will do? Anybody? So I'll do this. What do you think it will do? See what happened? I will delete everything just to see, for you to see. So what I'm doing in this piece of code, and that's how you can reference things, Stella, is you go to the value of a cell. You can modify that cell anywhere, right? If you add, you can do a formula that has a different, the name of the last column that you want to modify, right? So the first column, the first cell will be this, and the last cell, so let's put first cell, and then last cell. Let's that like that, right? So the first cell is F10, the last cell is K10, right? And then if you go to the code will read these cells, the value of these cells, and then we'll do the range out of the concatenation of F10 with the semicolon and then K10. And that's how it worked. Let's try it again. So this value 10, you go here, and then you go to 10. If I change this, instead of changing the code, I'm not changing the code. The code is there, the same code. I will delete this. No, I will, you know what? Yeah, I will delete it. I will delete it. So the first time it ran all till here, right? So I will put a different color so you see. I will put a different color. So the first time it ran all to here. Now let's change this, and then I will say instead of K10, I'll do all the way till O10, right? So O10, there you go, O10, okay? And then I run again the code. What do you think it will happen? The same code, I didn't change the code, okay? And I'll run it, and it goes all the way. So this is the way that you can do this reference, right? You can use cells inside to modify it, and then you run the code, and you don't need to change the code, right? So back to range. So we're using range and cells, right? So cells we have done. So perfect, some cells. So what do we, perfect. So until now, right, we have used this complete sentence. But what if we can declare an object and then using it somewhere, okay? So let's declare an object in our code. Instead of doing this range, all this, let's do this, okay? Dim to declare a variable, and then I will call range test as range, okay? So this will declare a variable that is called range, okay? And once you declare that, okay, you can say range, okay? So we will set, so this will give value to the range. So range test will be, okay, so range test equals, and then we will do exactly what we were doing, right? I will copy this. I will copy this, okay? Just this, okay? So what will happen now is when you do this, you are setting this variable to be this range, okay? Of course, I will love to do active workbook. No, in fact, I will do sheets or worksheets. As I said, you can use both the same way, and I will call it range object, range object. Okay. So I do that. I close the parentheses, and then I put dot range. Okay. You saw I wrote like a maniac with all capital letters, and if Visual Basic realizes that you want to use sheets and checks that you have an object that is called sheets, automatically it will do all the proper case for all what you wrote. Okay, so this now range test is, you can use it the same way that you were using it before. So instead of using all these, you can say range test, and then of course, as you have an object, you click, and then you have all these properties. Okay, so value equals 10. So this code now, what it will do, it will create an object called range test, and it will declare that object as the sheets of as the range object sheet range F10 to J10, and then it will put in that object, it will put the value 10. Okay, that is what it's doing now. I will delete, well, no, not delete. I will just comment this. Okay, let's run it again. Let's see what happens. Where is my button? Where is my button? Do you see my button? Where did I put? There you go, my button, right? So let's call the button. See? And it did exactly the same thing. But the important thing is that now you don't need to write every single time the same range. The range is there, and it's always for you to use. So if imagine that afterwards you want to do range test dot, let's check address. Let's do a message box. Remember the message box, the one that will open a window, right? I will put message box, okay, and it will be address. There you go. Okay, let's see what happens. See? So inside of the object, I didn't call the range again, right? This variable has all this information, right? And whenever you need to use it, you don't need to write again all this information. You have it inside the variable, okay? So that is how you can do many, many things with the same range just by declaring the variable. So let's go back. Why? Because I, oops. Really important thing, again, guys, when you're using message box, never forget to press OK, right? Because if you leave it open like this, and then you go to your code, you cannot do anything, right? So be careful. It happens, right? So say OK to it, right? So declare a range object. We did all this. Then select perfect thing. So now I did a message box. I say OK, but before I want to select the range, right? Now, as I have a variable, I can use that variable, right? So range text, sorry, text, test. So now, guys, talking about components of the object, if I want to select the range, what do you think I need to select here? Is it a property or is a method? Go to the chat and answer. So if I want to select, what do you think select is? Carlos says a method. Do you agree with what Carlos said? Or you think it's something else? Put property. Ah, it's one or the other, but no. Thank you, Maria. But it's not a property. It's a method. Again, the difference between property and method is a method is an action that will happen, right? A property is a value, a component, right? So if we want to select, then automatically you know that the action of selecting the rows, selecting the cells will be a method, right? Let's test it. So let's go to dot, and then you say activate, add comment. So these are methods. So these are methods. These are properties. And if you go all the way down, let's start writing with S, and then see, select is a method. Okay, why? Because it will do an action. We want it to do an action. If select would be a property, then it will give us information. It will say select me equals whatever, right? So that's why you know that it is a method. Okay, so we put it. So we say select. What do you think it will happen? We go back to our button, right? We go up, all the way up, all the way up. Let's move the button down sometimes. So command button, we push it and see what happened. What was the difference between before and now? See, instead of just changing the values, it also shows us the range. So that is select, right? So select will, as the name says, it will select the range that you're using. Okay, and it will leave it select because we never said anything against that, right? So now be careful because that is dangerous. Right now you have those selected. So if you say range equals whatever, then it will change it again, right? So that is select. Any question? Am I going too far or too fast? No? Any question about select, methods, properties, and range? So range, as I said, range is what is range? It's a group of cells, right? And you can declare at the moment you're using the range, which cells are you doing, right? The same way that you do it in normal Excel, you can say this to this, or this to this, and that, and that will be your range. And whatever you do with the range, it will work in the code, right? And as we saw with the question from Stella, you can also take information from the sheet that you have and use it in your code to have kind of a reference way of calling the range, right? So you can read from here and from here, and then you can use the range, and then you can do whatever you want with the range. Okay. So there is a property, a very interesting property that range has. Okay. So we declare, we did the select. Now there is a property, again, the difference between actions and properties. One gives you information, the other one makes or executes an action, right? So let's do another one. Instead of address was a property, but imagine that we want to know the number of in this case, the number of columns that you have in the range. That will be very valuable, right? So you go here and then you say rows, see, and you have rows. So let's see what rows tells me, right? Let's see that. Now, what is rows? What do you think rows is?
Carlos, 5
Yes.
4 minutes for this activity, please.
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you.
So what do you think that will happen if I press message box now? If I press the button, what do you think that the message box will tell me? If I do it like this, I set the range. So the range is a variable of that. It says 1. Do you think that that will be the result? Let's try it. And it says no. Why? Why? Why do you think it's saying that is wrong? What do you think rows is? Imagine, see your Excel file, okay? If you're talking about rows, what do you think rows are? And the answer is very simple. Yes, exactly. They're cells. There's a group of cells. Rows are group of cells. The same as columns are groups of cells. So in reality, they're also ranges, but it will be only the range that takes the rows, so horizontal. And if you take columns, it will be the column, the vertical side, right? So if I want the count of rows, I cannot just do it with pressing rows. What else do I need? In reality, I want a property of rows, right? So let's see if something gives me that information. If I go dot, let's look for something else that gives me the count. What do you think it will be named? So the way that it will be named, of course, is count. See, count. There you go, count. So now, message box, range text, the rows, give me the count of the rows of this range. Okay, let's do what? Again, F8. Let's test it, and then now Carlos is right. Now it works. But you cannot, again, always you need to remind that dot gives you the property that you're selecting. And if the object is an object, then you will not be able to print it because the object has many things, right? So you will need to go into the object to find a property that you're selecting. So I'm counting rows. It gave me 1 because we have only 1 row in this range. Now let's count columns to see what happens, right? What do I do? Let's do this. Let's see, again it happened. Didn't close the window. There you go. So F8, it finishes. Now, let's do this. And this is the last thing that I will do. Rows. And then I will break. And then I said that to concatenate, ampersand. And then I will concatenate this. And then I will concatenate and space, right? So concatenate, so ampersand. And then another quotes. And I will put a space. And then I will say columns, right? I will put semicolon, space, and then quotes, and then ampersand, and then I will get the count of rows, of columns. So how do I do it? Range test, which is the range. Then I will do, instead of rows, I will do columns, right? And I will assume that if the rows are like this, then columns will be the same way, right? So count. That's it. So let's test it. Let's go back to the button. I will press it. And what will be the answer? It will be, I think it will be 1 and 5. What do you think it will be? So let's press it. There you go. So rows 1, columns 5. Even if this sheet has many columns and rows, in reality, what is counting is in this precise range. Okay? So I do okay, and I think I finish with this selection columns we did. Copy paste. You can read it from here. It's the same thing as we have done it in the same account. You can copy. Okay, just to finish this one. What is copy and what is paste? On the chat, tell me what are they? Are they properties or methods? Methods, Carlos says. Vanessa says methods. Who else says methods? Yeah, Daniel. So you guys are completely right. Methods, because what? We're doing an action, right? We're executing something. So we copy, so we will select, then we copy, and then when you paste it, you need to go to another range, you need to select it, and then paste. That's it. That's how it works. So that's why I will not do the test, because it's very simple. That's how you can copy and paste. Now, with copy and paste, the only important thing that you need to think about, and it's how it works in Excel. When you're copying cells, you do a Control-C, then you go to another range, and then you do Control-V, but that thing that you were copying it's still selecting to be copied. So you can copy it as many times as you want in different ranges, right? So that also happens with the code. So when you're doing select and copy, and then you do paste, then you need to do clear. So it clears the let's say the action of copying. Okay, so that's the only important thing of this code, and that is it. So from range, and this is the longest thing that we need to do. It's over. Any question about range? So range and cells and rows and columns, all that are part of the worksheet. Okay, so they're objects inside the worksheet. Okay, so you always remember that you have an object hierarchy, and you just put dot to go into the methods and the properties of your objects. Okay, so this, when do we have the rest in the next? I think it's now, right? Or we continue?
What do you mean, Carlos?
Break.
No, we will continue.
No,
Yeah.
we can continue, Carlos. Yeah, go on.
Slave drivers. They want me to go on. Okay, let's do it. Now, variables. The next topic is variables, but we have already touched a little bit of variables, right? So we said variables are for you to store in memory. And when I say memory, I'm not talking about your memory. I'm talking about the computer memory, right? Information that you want to use later, right? And this information can be many things. It can be objects, as we did with ranges, but it can be also information, very basic information, like numbers or strings, or there's another type of variable that we will tackle that is called Boolean. Okay, very important for what we are doing with Visual Basic. Okay, so let's do numbers, right? So we said that to declare a variable for a number, there's two types. Well, in fact, there are like four, but there are four types to put numbers, okay? And the reason is we always want to save as much memory as possible. Okay, so if you're using very small numbers, then you will use integer. Now, integer, we're talking only whole numbers. So if you want to use a variable to save currency, what do you think it will happen if we use integer? In the chat, tell me, what do you think if we use, again, I said, integer is used for whole numbers. So if we use it to put a currency, what do you think it will happen? Exactly. Luis is right. We will not have cents, right? We will not have fractions of numbers, right? So integer is only used, right, to have whole numbers. Very important, right? And is a very small, well, in the case of big numbers, right? This integer only can handle 65,000 values, right? So it's a very small range of values you can handle in integer, right? Then if you want a bigger whole number, then you will use long. Integer and long for numbers, okay? Whole numbers. If you don't want to use fractions, then you use that, okay? Let's do some variables. You have done it, you have seen it, but let's do another button, right? In this sheet, because of course we love to create buttons. So again, button, insert, you go to the ActiveX controls, you click on this one, and then you click once, you leave it clicked, you drag, and then it comes with a button, right? Now let's create the code for this. Right click, view code, and then it opens, and see again, the button is called command button 1, okay? So let's start. When you declare a variable, you will do dim, okay? So any variable starts with dim, so that no problem. That is how you declare it. Then you put the name of the variable, which in this case I put X because it's great to have X, and then the type of variable you want to use, okay? So in this case, you do as, and then I want an integer. There you go. Now, very important thing for variables. If you see, I'm starting to write integer, and it will tell me, I think that you need, what you mean is integer, right? And if you see, you have this type, this icon that is like a box with colors, right? Is white with cyan and something else. These are basic types, okay? And then the other ones, if you see, you have interior, and then you have other types, and this one looks like it has cyan and yellow, and there's different objects, right? So in reality, what you're talking about, these are objects, and these are basic types. The difference is that the basic type doesn't require you to declare the object or set the object. Remember that when we were doing the range, that we had to do dim the name of the variable as range, and then we had another line that said set. Okay, that in reality what it does is connects the object to the variable. You create an object, or the object exists, and you're linking that object to the variable. In the case of these basic types, you just create a part of the memory where you will store the information. That is the difference, right? So when you do basic types, you don't need to put set. You just do X equals something, okay? That is the only difference. So in the case integer is a basic type, that's why you see it like this. You double click, and then it's written for you, okay? So this X will be an integer, and then of course the only way that you can put data into X is X equals 20, okay? What will happen if I say Y equals X? What do you think what will happen if I run this code? In the chat, what do you think it will happen if I run this code? Yes, Y will be 20. Yes, but what type of variable is Y? Carlos says integer. Maria says integer. Citlali says not defined. Interesting way to say it, Citlali. In reality, it will be a variant, which is almost a not defined, right? It can be anything, right? When you declare a variable, as I said, When you declare a variable, it's on the type of the variable that you declared. But as now you didn't declare y automatically becomes a variant. It will be always a variant. It will have the value 20, as Fahim said. Yes, it will have 20. But the amount of memory that you're using to store 20, it will be huge, right? It will be like, in value, it will be like 2 kilobytes. While 20 will be only 2 bytes, right? So imagine kilobytes against bytes. It's a world of difference. Maybe not now anymore because you have big memories, but when this started, it was a big difference, right? And if you're using a lot of variables, it makes a difference. So whenever you use variables, it's better to declare them. So the way that you declare many variables is that you make dim x an integer, and you can make comma here, and then you can say y as integer as well. Okay, interior, no, integer. There you go. So this line will say, I will declare x as integer and y as integer, right? Now, what I did exactly what Fahim said and what Carlos also said, right? It is, then the two variables are integers. Now, I said that there's another variable that can store 20. What was that variable? Remember? I said there's two types of variables that can store whole numbers. So I said integer is one, and the second, Luis says that is long. Do you think that he's right? So Maria says also long. And then everybody says long. And you know what? Yes, they're right. So if I say here long, the value of y will continue to be 20. It will continue to be 20, but the size of memory that you're using for storing that 20 will be twice as big. No, in fact, it's 4 times as big. So in that number, you can store, I think the biggest is 2 million. Something like that. It's a big number. So you can store many whole numbers, right? Now, of course, we're talking still about whole numbers. So what happens if I want to store 20.5? Will that work? And the answer is no, it will not work, right? These two variables are only integer and long.
Sorry,
now,
Carlos.
Yes.
5 more minutes for
Perfect.
this topic.
Excellent time. So imagine that I have x. Imagine that let's do it the other way around. Y is an integer and x is the long variable, okay? And then instead of doing this, I will do something like this. What do you think it will happen here? In the chat, what do you think it will happen here? So x value gets trimmed. Let's try, right? Let's try. Let's see what happens. So design mode off. I turn this button and says, Carlos said overflow. Well, it's not overflowed, it's overflow, right? This is the most common issue that you have with variables. You try, yes, exactly. You try to put a value that doesn't fit in the variable. So they always, when you see this, is because somebody tried to put in the memory something that didn't fit. So when I declared y, I said it will only be an integer, but x has a bigger value than an integer. So when you try to put it in, it will fail, and always it will tell you overflow, right? So you need to always be careful how to use variables, right? If you're using one variable and then you equal the other variable, you need to always check that it fits. Now, it doesn't mean that they need to be the same type, only that the value is, it fits in the other one. So let's do end. Okay, so let's go back to the code and let's test. So let's put 2000, right? So x is a long number, but only has the value 2000. Okay, Maria, I will answer your question right now. So I will test this, and it works. See why? It doesn't mean that the variable needs to be the same. It only means that the value that is stored in the variable, it fits in the other variable. So Maria says, what if we do the contrary? If we have y as long and x as integer, and we have these values, nothing will happen. Why? Because long can store more than integer, right? So if you have 2000 as an integer, and then you put it into a long, it will have 2000, the same value, but it will use 4 times as much memory. Okay. In some with the machines of today, one variable like that is not that much, but it will use more space of the memory. Okay. So then the other type of variables that we have, right, are the variables. Let's declare z or z, so comma z as double. Okay, set as double, it means that this one can have z equals y. What do you think it will happen here? Z, what will be the value of z? So double is a fraction. You can have cents there. You can have fractions of 1, right? Fractional numbers. So if I do this, what do you think z value will be? Chat, what would be the value of z or z? 0? Nope. Same as y. Yes. 2000. Yeah, 2000. It doesn't mean that the value changes, right? It means that it doesn't have any fractional part. But if we do it the other way around, let's do this the other way around. Okay, let's do z equals 25 point blah, all this, okay? And then I go x equals z. What do you think it will happen? Error. Let's try. So I stopped it here. Let's do what happens. Let's run it. Let's do the button. I press it. Stops here. So x is 2000. Y is 2000. See, when you go to the mouse and you put your pointer on top of the variable and it's stopped, like now, you can see the values of the variables, right? So x is 2000, y is 2000, z is 25.23 because I did it here. Let's do F8. Oops, it worked. What is the value of, okay, now tell me, what is the value of x? So it worked. No error. 25. Everybody says 25. And you're right. So in the case of moving from double to long or even to integer, right? It will take away all the numbers, right? I think it will even round. So let's try. So let's put 7. Okay, 73. Let's go back to z. You can do this as well. You can rerun things. So I went back. I clicked on the arrow and I move it to the code, okay? So I can move it to any line of code I want and I can rerun the code. So now I'm in Z. I will run again this F8. It goes one step. And then this Z is 25.73. What do you think the value of X will be? Again, 25? Let's try. So the value is 26. So it doesn't take away the fraction. It rounds to the next whole number. Okay? So that is what happens. And then the last value, I'm going a little bit late with this one, but this one is the most important. Well, not important. It's not the most important, but it's important to know. There's another variable type that I said, and that is Boolean. Okay? And the type Boolean is true or false. That's it. True or false. So let's do another one. Let's put variables, right? So dim, let's put a as Boolean, okay? So now I have a. What do you think it will happen if I put a equals z? A equals z or x. What do you think it will happen? Chat, what do you think that this will happen? Error? Error? Let's try, right? Let's try. Let's see what happens. Let's go and press the button. No error. Nothing. I will press it again and again and again. No error. So it will not be an error. So which value it is, right? I will stop it here and I will run it again and let's see, right? So now it's false, okay? When you declare a Boolean, automatically the variable goes to false. Never true, it will always be false, okay? Now you have 26 and you go F8 and the value is true, okay? Did you see?
Sorry, Carlos, it's
yes.
7:55.
Okay, so I will just, what happened? When you have information in a variable and you put it into a Boolean, it will always be to true. So more than, the only value that is false is 0. Anything else is true. Okay, that is how this works. If you equal something to a Boolean like this, as I did, integer to a Boolean, if you have value, oh no, sorry, as long, it will always go to true. Okay, so be careful, be really careful. As you can see, as you saw, if I want to have true, I need to stop the code. So A can be either true or false. That's it. And it will tell you that it can be true or false. And to write it is not a string, as you can see, is the word false. Okay. So if you want true, then you go to true, and that is it. Okay. I will use these Booleans in the next chapter. Okay. So do I have time for the next chapter? I guess not.
No, we're getting a bit late. I was going to ask that maybe we can open like a Q&A.
Yes.
So maybe they can ask you like if they have like some questions, so maybe repeat something very quickly.
Yeah, let's go. Sorry, guys, I wanted to go to if-then statements and loop, but the document is there. I think that with this, you can start testing. You saw how to test things in Visual Basic. The good thing is that you have the material, so you can always go back to the material. And as you can see, you will not break the machine doing testing, okay? You can open an Excel file and just play with it, try it. You will, believe me, you will not break anything.
Okay. Now, well, first of all, thank you, Carlos. Well, I know that we are getting like to the finish like of this workshop, and well, I would like to thank to all the participants for joining us today. I hope you make the most of this workshop, and of course, again, Carlos, thank you so much. You were like super speaker.